hard timeline. Anyway, you're Ryan, you're good now. Certainly good now. Here? I should link you guys in the chat, I guess, so that you can see it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, JK. Can't do that. Oh wait, yes I can. Haha. Just kidding. Hi chat. This is so that people can interact with you. Alan's in the chat, Harry's in the chat. Board meetings and things. Phil, Harry did call the Eastern Conference the easy conference earlier, and I'm personally offended by that. I know.
I don't know. I'm trying to say something funny without like personally offending Harry. Actually,
no.
Harry, man, you know better than this. Come on.
Yeah. How's it feel to have Anthony Precourt in your state now?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He's just I love the way he goes about doing things. It's the best, says the mayor of Austin.
That was the worst.
That was the worst part of that. And
so good. I'm glad that we can talk about that before we actually start the show.
I put it in our notes in case we wanted to touch on it.
Oh, I mean, I didn't really want to.
It affects us, so I don't think it's a stretch.
It doesn't really affect us.
Yeah, as much as it affects Chattanooga, which we're going to talk about, it's the same thing, just on a different level.
Well, we're not. We're punting Chattanooga to our other friends. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Okay, we can't really say too much about that, but we're gonna do that. Ryan's having some techie issues. Techer issues. It's all good. We'll roll with it.
747.
Oh my God! Can we not talk about that chat, please? Oh, I hate that chant so much.
Oh,
guys, I forgot.
There's nothing as bad as Eltree I've ever heard in any soccer chant in the world. Like that, it's worse than anything I've ever heard in my life. Soccer's a world sport, and that is worldly bad.
I'm gonna say that the 7-4 chant is still worse than Vamos Eltree, because at least with Vamos Eltree, it's like I understand what you're doing. But that's the Mexican national team. It doesn't work unless your entire team is going to be Mexicans, which would be amazing. And then B, 7-4, just 7-4, just no one is going to understand conceptually. You can't be I don't know. I picture them randomly in a bar in Vegas, and they're going through their repertoire, if you will, of chants. Oh, sorry, not in Vegas. Where would they go? Whatever, who cares? And they go to Dallas, right? Make it local. And they're in a bar and they're going through their repertoire and they say Vamos Eltree and everyone laughs at them. And then what am I going for? Oh, and then they go 7-4 and everyone's just like, what the hell is that even supposed to be? And then they explain it in the chant, and then it's not any better. It's just this is bad.
Absolutely.
Oh, was it a one-time only chant? Well, that's even worse. Then why did you even have it in the book? Only? Oh, boo, Harry.
I didn't know it was one time only.
Oh, I want it to be a constant.
I'm actually happy. I'm happy.
No, I'm not though. I'm not, because that means they just did it for Donnie Garbs, and I don't know how to feel about that.
Good point.
They're like, ooh, you know what? Anthony Precourt's gonna
Good point.
Talking about court cases.
Gross. So gross. It's all gross.
It's great. It's so good. Anyway, I'm your host. As
wait. 1 second.
Yeah,
sorry.
what's up?
I apologize.
Yeah, no.
I'm just going to hit the R button.
Oh, true. Go ahead, hit that.
I'm on. I'm good.
All right. Are we good? Good.
Good.
All right. Okay, great. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the USL show. The first one of 2019, right? Right?
It is? Yeah, we haven't done one.
How about that? So happy way late New Year, everybody. I'm your host as most of the time. Oh my God, I don't even remember my own intro. It's fine. Whatever. I don't need one. Evan Valella, I'm here. Hi. How's everyone doing? I'm sick. If you hear a lot of mouth noises and swallowing and unwrapping cough drops and consequently putting those into my mouth and chewing and things, I'm sorry. But I'm doing it for show business. Joining me, my man, the waviest man in the St. Louis metropolitan area, the cream in your coffee. It's Phil Grims. Dude, did you just disappear on me too? What's going on? No, you're here. Rough. Can you tell it's like a 2018 hangover kind of thing? Because it is. Cool. So a quick rundown of the format tonight. We're gonna go into some news, and then at about 9:30-ish or so, former Colorado Rapids communications department and current vice president of communications and public relations, Ryan Madden, will be joining us from somewhere in Florida.
That is my fault.
No, you cool. Yeah, Ryan Madden's going to be here at about 9:30 or so. We're going to talk about the Grant Wall Sports Illustrated article that came out the other day when he talked to Jake Edwards about 2026 and some things like that. And you guys sent in some questions we're going to ask him as well. So starting things off with the news. What do we got here? I guess we'll start with that. Birmingham's stadium, BBVA Compass Field, which I had to do like a triple take when I saw that because I was like, why does that relate to the USL? And then I realized it was Birmingham Stadium. It's cool.
Took me a second too.
Yep. Yeah. Renovations and expanded stands coming for that one. That's University of Alabama Birmingham's football stadium. So they're going to push the
place. Their soccer.
Oh, is it their soccer place? All right. University of Alabama.
Legion Field's their football place.
That's ironic.
Oh, Legions is a Birmingham thing, though, isn't it? Or am I wrong?
I think so.
That's a Birmingham thing.
Okay. So it makes sense.
Hey, Birmingham. Oh no. Oh, I forgot. I had it, and I lost it. Who was their first player they signed? Chandler Hoffman. No.
Yeah, Chandler Hoffman.
Chandler Hoffman.
That's
Chandler
right.
Hoffman. Call in. Let us know.
Joining us now on the
yeah,
it'll be perfect.
Guys, Chandler Hoffman. Oh my god. Anyway, they're going to move that capacity to 5,000, which, as we all know, is a big, to do within the USSF. And they're going to add a 20 by 40 video board, much like the one the Charleston Battery have, which not as big of a deal to USSF, but they look nice. So deal with it.
Yep, good move. I'm glad they're going to build it up.
I still like their logo.
I do too.
It's good.
Pony wasn't a fan, but I liked it.
Well, sucks for him.
The next one.
Yeah. Speaking of Ryan Madden, we're going to read a tweet from him in a second. Chicago USL's hitting some speed bumps, I will call them. The stadium deal that they had proposed for Lincoln Yards fell through. And because of that, Tom Ricketts, who was, I think, more or less kind of dependent on that deal happening, has sort of backed away as the majority owner of the club.
Big blow to their ownership group.
Right. Yeah.
Huge blow. Yeah. Because, they do say that they're still going to look for a USL stadium, but without Ricketts and without that big development that we knew about near Wrigley.
Yeah, it was tough with Lincoln Yards. It just seems it's kind of like New York City. It's always like just not much land around to build and everything. But it also makes me curious, like if they're going to be determined, are they going to be forced to do a Chicago Fire type thing and build out in the suburbs? Or if worst comes to worst, could they, like, say, move the rights to Milwaukee or to a different city if they absolutely have? So I know in Ryan Madden's tweet, it did say that they're trying to make it work in Chicago and they're committed to the region. But eventually, if 2021 comes along and they don't have a stadium deal not locked down, is playing in Bridgeview better than current situation?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting though, because in that Sports Illustrated article, who wrote that one? I would like to give them credit. Buffering. 2 seconds. Come on. See, if I was like actually, prepared. Emily Karen or Carone, probably Karen. She does say that there's Sterling Bay is the company that wanted to try to pass this, or is trying to pass something that involves like 5 mixed-use entertainment venues or something. So, I wonder if the and spoiler alert, everyone, I don't think we're getting anything more than we already got from the league in regards to this, even though we're having one of their representatives on the show later. I just wonder if the approach now is to try to get the other people that are wanting to build that entertainment setup to see the value of a soccer stadium and a soccer team. Unfortunately, using the Chicago Fire as an example is probably not going to help, which was a subtle dig. But at the same time, I don't know if you also can't go to the Chicago Fire and say, hey, guys, you have a decent academy. You should probably have a place for those kids to go. Do you want us to, let's try to get a team on your doorstep? I don't know.
Plenty. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't even think the Soccers are a part of it, right? So like the Soccers could join and become their academy. That would be really cool. Yeah. And that's kind of all the attractiveness of it to me is getting the, you're right there, Ryan.
Ryan, what are you doing, bud? Just hammering those keys, buddy.
No, it's funny. It's like the left half of my keyboard just doesn't work. A lot of times I have to keep snatching it a couple of times.
Oh, it's so good.
It sounds great, but no, that's the attractiveness of it to me, is that the Fire are crapping the bed so badly right now. If this had come in the next year or 2 or 3, they would have really had some momentum going right off the bat, and I feel like MLS might have been shaking in their boots just a little tiny bit. I think if they had a 20,000 person stadium in the city, playing yes on a lower level, but you get the derby and Open Cup fun. If they have a 12,000 seat stadium and they get a lot of people to actually come, they can spend Cincinnati kind of money in USL. So, the story rolls from there, and now it's gone. And I imagine even the 20,000 person stadium's gone. Not to mention the entertainment. Again, Evan, I thought you made a good point. Are they going to be able to sell you having a stadium there at all based on the current situation? And also makes me wonder if it was used as leverage in the first place. So maybe that speaks well for having a soccer stadium.
So there's been soccer stadiums that have been used as concert venues. Talent Energy Stadium's been used a bunch. Map Fire used to hold a festival every year. It's not unheard of because they're big areas with a lot of lawn space, and you can do it. It's just maybe trying to convince somebody that okay, instead of building 3 amphitheaters or something crazy, maybe make one of those a soccer stadium. And if they, especially in the off season or something, they really open it up for the public and things like that. I mean, I know it's going to wreck the turf, but those Chicago fields are always a mess in March and April anyway. So who knows? It'll be interesting to see. I definitely don't think it's the nail in the coffin by any stretch for Chicago, and I honestly am more confident that they get to the team than not. But we'll have to see how that goes.
Surely they get it sometime. Sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I guess a counter to that kind of stadium situation is if they're going to hold concerts and stuff, they already have Soldier Field, which is a much larger venue, or if they want a more intimate setting, they could just put it in the United Center with the Bulls and Blackhawks.
Yeah.
That's true, but then it's inside or it's too big. This is outside and it's not too big. It's not too echoey.
Yeah,
I think it would be. They would have a fine time getting that sort of thing to happen, at least in the summer and spring and fall.
And it did sound like they were going to try and get at least outside of football and or outside of soccer and concerts, that they would try and do high school football in the location.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
cool.
I think we lost him, but high school football, they can get guys from all over the state for that sort of thing. So there's a lot you can do with that kind of stadium.
Hey, speaking of stadiums, Indy XI's trying again, but they also have a new CEO. And 2 days after Ray Sremmerd announces they are not breaking up, #Srem for life, Greg Stremlaw is the new Indy XI CEO. Coincidence? No. No, this is directly related. Ray Sremmerd is going to fund Indy XI's new stadium. Thank you, Trey Higdon, for dropping that one in my mailbox. This is what happens when... Anyway. Hey, guys, that's not happening. The CEO thing, Greg Stremlau, is true. A former Canadian broadcast executive replacing Jeffrey Belskis. I saw that our dear friend Brian Cook at Soccer with Brian had a tweet where, it's weird that they're bringing in a CEO who's basically just making a stadium push when that was what the last CEO wanted to do, kind of thing. But tell you what, I mean, the guy that oversaw CBC's coverage of the Olympics and things like that is not a bad guy to get. And Indy drew 10,000 last year, and apparently the details of the stadium deal I can't see here, but they're pretty good. It's a $550 million development. It's called 11 Park, which I hope is a working title. 20,000 seat stadium in Indianapolis is part of a larger public-private partnership. Public-funded stadiums are bad, by the way, but it's all right. Yeah, and I mean, Stremlau, like I said, Olympics coverage, Hockey Night in Canada coverage, also did deals with FIFA, MLS, and a couple other soccer leagues. So not a stranger to soccer, which is always nice. I'm kind of hesitant on the whole public stadium thing because those are bad. But, who knows?
Yeah, Brian Cook wrote or he's writing one right now about the stadium, I guess. I thought it was out already on BGN Written, so watch for that. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing these public stadiums, and this is kind of what I was kind of pondering in my head about the Chicago thing. I believe the Colorado Springs Switchback Stadium is going to be like this, where it's not just... They're not just selling like a stadium for the public to help contribute to. It's like usually it's like a concert venue and a shopping area. It's like this big development all rolled into one, and that's how we're seeing a lot of these soccer stadiums being pushed into county public financed situations. Projects is the word I'm looking for. So I thought that was interesting about this and the Chicago thing that fell through. And I'm really excited about the Colorado one as well, because they've been kind of rumoring theirs for a few years. And it's
the Switchbacks one.
Yeah, Switchbacks. Yeah. It's going to be cool.
It'll be really pretty.
And I think in a nice location compared to where they were before.
Yes.
Nice is, that's a debatable
it's a relative term, but I mean they're going to be in like downtown Colorado Springs, so I mean
yeah, so I think they're moving from like a shady area to a nice area, so that's the part where you can debate.
There'll be a lot of sunshine where they are in a couple of years.
Sure, there you go. Brian Cook does say that the stadium deal in Indy is the best one so far.
He also said that
way to go.
He said that the name is what they're going to call it, and if I can. Brian, can we start petitioning your local government to just add a clause into that contract that they have to change that name? Because I'm really...
Can they just sell the naming rights?
Yeah, we'll take them. The USL Show Park.
We can't afford that.
No, let's leave it at Naming Rights Stadium.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Phil, we can afford that if they don't charge us for it. We're doing it pro bono for Indy XI.
Okay. I mean, you have great ideas, Evan, but
if we offer them our name on their stadium as like a service to them, then we're great.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Exposure.
Yeah, exposure. Oh my God. No, like what we'll do, we'll just in the middle of the night, we'll just go there as soon as they build the thing. We'll just drop we'll get the sign put up, and then we'll leave, and then they'll go to unveil it, and they'll be like, well, all right, that's already there. I guess we'll keep it.
Let's talk about something different.
Okay.
Indy. And that is I'm going to pull up the transfer tracker right now.
Yeah, they've signed some good players. Most recently, Dane Kelly, welcome back.
Yeah. He's no fool. He knows what he's doing. He knows where he's successful. And Indy's not dumb either about signing him.
No. Well, and he wasn't getting used in DC.
Surprise, right?
Well, it's another one of those things where like he's a casualty to the depth chart.
Yeah, I know.
Where it's like, are you really gonna take the spot of Lucho Acosta or Wayne Rooney? Like, no, they're not.
Even Maddox, who
is
going to Cincy.
Anyway, yeah, so a huge move for them. We'll talk about another team that I think is about to make a lot of headwaves in 2019.
Before we move on, though, I do want to mention. I want to mention some of their lineup highlights.
Yeah,
I'm going to miss some of them, but I think Richard Rainwater posted a nice starting 11.
Richard and Brian both tweeted out some starting 11 speculation.
Oh, right on. Okay, so I might have missed one, but Patty Barrett in defense coming from Cincy. Tyler Gibson from Cincinnati. My favorite is Ilya Illich, is coming in to be with Dane Kelly, and Starikoff is still going to be there. Kenny Walker from Cincinnati.
Neville Hackshaw, Evan Newton.
I forgot. Yeah,
Evan Newton. I forgot about that.
Good Lord.
I mean, they're just piling up players. Some of the better players. They're kind of doing what Cincy did, except these players weren't in NASL last year. They were just at Cincy.
Yeah.
Or there were some of the other better players in the USL. So we'll see how that goes. I wasn't a big fan of how the coach messed with his team. I know he was set up to have a different team tactically, and he kind of pushed his formation on there through the year. So maybe it's not a fair shake. But, I wasn't a fan of them last year. We'll see how he sets them up this year.
They're making the signings that are correct, and would it be bold, or Brian, I guess it makes sense to this, would it be bold to say that Indy could be hosting a first-round playoff game this year that isn't a play-in game?
Heck yeah. You know what? I mean,
I like it.
Just like Nashville.
I think they're making the correct offseason signings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ben Wright in Nashville, I think I mess up first names sometimes, but
no, you got him. You got him.
Okay, good. I think Ben Wright said something like, I'd be really upset if they didn't, win the league or something like that. Something crazy high. I was like, whoa.
Baby steps, baby.
And but we talked about it more, and it's not an unfair hope, an expectation, maybe not, but based on what they have, and if they repeat certain things about last year, both Indy and Nashville should have high expectations and high hopes. He's not wrong.
I think to rebut one of Harry's comments in the chat. By the way, show goes live on YouTube every week that we have a show. It's gonna be Thursdays in the off season and probably Tuesdays in the regular season. But to get notified about when we go live every week, go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/the USL show. Hit subscribe, and it'll just let you know. It'll be great. And then you can join and talk to us live in our live chat, which is also great.
I'm doing right now.
Because then you don't need to wait till the episode drops on Friday or Wednesday during the season to tell us how wrong we are. Which is really the best part of it for all of us, isn't it?
I actually appreciate being corrected in the middle of a show.
No, I do too. It's always very constructive. I appreciate that. Yeah, and we're all actually actively kind of participating in the chat. I've dropped off a little bit because I'm doing other things behind the scenes, but that's fine. That's
right. I got this next one because I'm so excited about being corrected or maybe not getting my stuff wrong in the first place because Ryan Allen has done us all a freaking favor. And
Ryan Allen is your new favorite person.
Oh, he is, because the USL 2018 database is live. Ryan, why don't you just tell us, because you just spent all your time making it, what it is and why you do it.
I usually do it just because the USL tends to dump their stats halfway through the season or make it at least increasingly difficult to find stats that go down. So I wanted to go through and at least copy and paste everything into an Excel file, which I then transfer to Google Sheets, which then just kind of helps at least save it. And I felt like it'd be something a lot of people would appreciate, since there were 992 players who played in USL 2018 last year, and considering that a bunch of them are going to be coming back, it'd be good reference to looking at how many goals they have, who was the most efficient passer, and even just like what country they came from. Like 52% of the league are Americans, which was surprising, or which was definitely a lower number than I would have thought. And the country that had the third most players was actually Jamaica.
Interesting. The top five, though, I think most people would guess, because I was surprised by Jamaica as well. I thought maybe England would be up there. You said that was the
England was 5. It was USA, Canada, Jamaica, Mexico, and England.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Trinidad and Tobago had the same number of players as Argentina, 15.
There you go.
You're welcome.
That's actually really
team.
surprising to me. I didn't know we had 15 Argentinians.
But no, we actually tweeted it out from the USL show account, so it's retweeted out on Twitter, and I make occasional updates to it.
The database he's talking about. It's really useful. I just had to I just wrote an article about St. Louis FC, which I forgot to retweet that today. I was looking for what's a common or a high score for key passes. Because Hilton had 59, and I was able to look at Ryan's spreadsheet to let me know that's pretty good. Not amazing, but pretty darn good. So it's really helpful already to me the first week it was in action.
Sure.
And Ryan, you and Laura Ellen are going to team up on data, right?
Yeah, we're working a few stats for the database itself and just trying to help you a little bit more predictive for the future.
Beauty.
And I also have the 2017 database if anyone's interested in that one, but that's the as far back as I've gone.
Yep. Well, we appreciate it, man. It's a lot of work, and it's vital it's nice for our community to have that year after year because, like you said, USL does dump those online, and so
man, if only we could ask somebody about that in about 10 minutes or so.
Exactly. I think we've talked about already.
Anyway, no, the last bit of news, and then do you guys want to wait on the draft until after?
He's popping in. We have 10 more minutes to kill.
We do.
More to talk about?
Let's talk about the Charlotte Independence added Felix Sergio Ugarte. There it is. To their coaching staff, former youth players / first teamer at Atletico Bilbao and a couple other La Liga clubs, and then managed Bilbao's youth club. He managed Baskonia, Bilbao Athletic, which is not the same as Athletic Bilbao, and then Varea, and then Sestao, Oviedo, and Sestao again. A bit of a relegation fight specialist, was able to avoid the drop with Athletic in 2006, and then and in 2000, sorry, 20, I guess the 2011 or the 2011-12 season, Sestao River Club, he led the safety, and then joined Oviedo, where he stayed for a year, and then was in Sestao. But he's joining the Charlotte Independence now, which is a huge get. Jim McGinnis is very happy about it. I'm terrified of Charlotte this year, by the way. They're going to be their player signings are smart. We're biased. Hugh Roberts is I guess I'll call him a friend. Yeah, we'll do that.
That checks out.
Corrections
department says that checks out.
All right, cool. Hugh Roberts is a friend of ours, a friend of mine, whatever you want to call it. So we're biased. I like seeing those guys keep getting jobs, and luckily most of my guys have kept their have jobs. So that's nice. But he's a really solid center back, and Charlotte picked him up. And then just what they're doing, even as far as the technical side of things, with McGuinness coming over from Ireland, saying, I don't know a ton of, about the American game maybe or soccer in general, even though he's worked with Celtic. They keep Jeffries on, which is huge because there's not a guy that knows more about the USL than him, arguably. And then they bring in, Sergio Ugarte, who's got, as much experience at a high level as anybody else, really. So they are a team that I am shaking in my boots at a little bit.
Managed by commission or committee.
Yeah.
Did we already mention that Enzo's back? They don't. So Charlotte doesn't have a large roster, but the guys, here's the bottom 4 guys, is Alex Martinez, who was one of the assist leaders, or no, goal scoring leaders for a midfielder, especially last year. Enzo Martinez is back. Brandon Miller and Hugh Roberts. That's such a good start.
Yeah. Hey, we know both those guys.
Right.
I like both those guys.
I thought you mentioned that. Holy cow. That's a great start.
Jack, for really good interviews next season.
Love it. But yeah, I love this too. Something that I think about a lot with McGinnis is he's surrounding himself with like good soccer guys, as we're kind of displaying here. And Jeffries is no joke as well, who's still going to be there as the sporting director. But you know, someone who can lead men. There's a lot to be said for just that. And he does know his soccer. He worked for Celtic, but there's a lot to be said for that, because honestly, in St. Louis, Preki didn't work out, and I think a major part of that wasn't his tactics. His tactics were good. His soccer smarts is out, it's out the window. It's amazing. So a lot of it has to do with man management, and especially in Americans, I think we respond well to good management. And I think McGinnis is going to be successful in the way that the team has been set up.
Well, and you look at the player coaches that are in, or sorry, the players coaches that are in this league, and on one hand you have guys like Anheuser and Lilly, who you want to just run through a wall for, and then you have other guys that are able to do it with kids like Wolniak and Brendan Burke, and Lee Calishaw comes to mind as a guy that's able to get his players up for it, and Tony Poulos out in St. Louisville, I think, does a good job. It seems to be, I'll mention James O'Connor. I think Hackworth is another one. Like there's a lot. There seems to be a lot more player coaches than coaches in USL.
And like the hot phrase this year, I've said it before, is like the team culture,
Yes.
and that's another piece of that, all these coaches are saying we have a great culture. The guys love each other. The guys are coming out saying, man, this is the best team. There's no bad guy on the team, like it's a thing right now. And there's something to it though. It's not, it's not all fake yet.
And I
do think building culture is important. I mean, if you look up at MLS and look at Joseph Martinez, he's thrilled about playing in Atlanta. It's just having about the right combination of culture and the right mix of players and coaching staff, and that really makes the decision that helps push players towards teams.
I just watched his highlight package of all the goals he scored last year.
He just needs 13 to have the most of the first 3 seasons in MLS.
So good. It's so good.
So
They'll have 13 by May.
He's so good, he like transcends me not wanting to talk about MLS on this show. Like, God,
so good.
What a guy.
Bo Round and Round, and we can't forget also, this is going to be mentioned a lot, McGinnis is famous in Ireland, and he's Bo Round and Round.
So I'm going to be out there in March. If we get a car, I'm going to try to find this mural.
You have to. Oh, definitely get a picture.
I'm going to.
I'll be angry if you don't.
All right.
But the Irish ambassador to the U.S. came all the way to Charlotte just to meet McGinnis.
It's brilliant. What a guy.
This is hilarious.
What a guy. And what a name too. Jim McGinnis.
So good.
It's like that's like a default FIFA regen name.
We need to get audio footage of him in a press conference.
I need audio footage of him talking to Patty Barrett and James Chambers.
Thank you. Thank you.
I need like all of the Irish guys, Richie Ryan. I need like all of them to talk to each other at the same time. Yeah, and just like give out about stuff that we're not going to know. Like their county. They should just talk about Gaelic football for like 20 minutes and just post it to the world, and none of us will get it, but it'll be entertaining, I guess.
That's where we need to get them to say, the classic intro thing. This is Jim McGinnis, and you're listening to the USL show.
Oh my God. I would live for that. If it was just Irish people. Can you imagine, like, if it was the first time someone was listening to this show, how bad the come down would be? They'd be like, oh my God, Irish guy. And then it would just be my stupid American voice. Be like, hi, everybody, welcome to the show. And they'd be like, oh, that was so close to being good. Yeah. Oh, I got to turn this off now. And then, our listeners.
6 Irish players in USL last year.
How many?
All right.
6 from Ireland.
It's only 6?
Six specifically from Ireland. I'm not including Northern Ireland.
I thought there'd be more, because I think the 6 that are in the league are decently well known. So I thought there'd be a lot more that weren't well known. So I bet I could name 4 of them.
Oh, guys, gotta behave.
No.
Dad's here. Oh boy. Oh, the vice president of USL Championship Communications and Public Relations, Ryan Madden, everybody. Ryan, how's it going?
Guys? How are you?
Yeah, I'm living. I'm a little sweaty palms now, but I'll get over it.
Thanks for having me on, fellas.
No problem. Thank you for not shutting us down for however many months you've been on the job now.
No, of course.
Yeah, right. You still talk to us. This is great.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. It's really bizarre. Yeah, man. So, for people that don't know, Grant Wall, what is that? 3 days ago, did an article with Jake Edwards talking about the USL, about like 6 or 7 years from now, which is crazy to me. But I mean, some of the highlights, and then I guess you can just kind of, 3 days ago, pick and choose your spots, and we'll go from there. But it talks about 40 teams being the limit for you guys, and you want to get there by 2026. Right now, you have 36 in the championship and 10 in League One.
Right.
Obviously, one of those is going to be a little trickier to fill than the other. But as far as the championship is concerned, like what are some of the goals that we're trying to hit? Is it just about getting the 40, or is there certain things that you're looking for in that remaining 4?
Yeah, I mean it's a big question. And I mean, before I jump straight into it, first off, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I've been listening ever since I took the job, so I follow along. Yeah, well, it's all right. But look, there's so the gist of the sort of growth strategy, if you will. So there's 36 clubs right now. The championship wants to get to 40. There's probably somewhere in the realm of 10 to 12 teams that are going to come out of the championship at some point before 2026 and move on into League One. And sort of the natural question there is, what 10 to 12 teams? Well, that decision isn't as reliant at the league level as you probably think. A lot of the clubs are going to make that decision for themselves. I think you've already seen it. You look at teams like North Texas, and you look at teams like Orlando and Richmond, and it's going to be a mix of MLS 2 teams and independent clubs who I think ultimately decide that both from a competitive standpoint for sure, but two, also from a business model standpoint, that League One makes a lot of sense for them, especially as we start to bring on new expansion markets. And I think that, the ultimate goal is bringing in expansion teams from big markets, top 50 media markets around the country, and sort of helping, not all of them will be, but certainly the vast majority should be. And so you have these 10 to 12 teams that drop out into League One. That leaves you with roughly 15 new expansion markets. And that's crazy because that's 15 new stadium projects. That's 15 new cities where young kids playing street soccer all of a sudden have this direct pathway to play professional soccer in their community. So that's really exciting. And then if you think about, we're currently at 10 teams in League One, 10 to 12 teams drop down. That leaves you with, we've said that we'd like to get to 40 in League One as well as sort of the cap. So that leaves you another 20 expansion markets. And that's crazy. I think, I think soccer fans in future generations are going to look back at this time of immense growth, especially within the USL. And I think it's going to be a really fascinating period. There's never for sure been a more exciting time to work at the league office. I mean, cumulatively, you're talking about 35 communities around the country that don't currently have professional soccer or don't have USL professional soccer and are going to have it. That's I think that's a pretty remarkable number. And that was the gist of the Grant Wall piece. It kind of came about. I was talking to Grant's editor, Avi Creditor at Sports Illustrated. And we were just kind of talking this stuff through, and he was like, look, that's a really good story. People need to know about what you guys are trying to do and what your long-term vision is. And then he hooked us up with Grant. Grant penned the piece, and I think it moved the needle a little bit. I think it opened a lot of people's eyes to how ambitious the league is, especially in the lead up to the 2026 World Cup.
Yeah.
That is an interesting way to put it too, and not something people have said, that it leaves 15 expansion spots, to make for better teams, hopefully, and better stadiums and better markets even. Because a lot of those teams that are automatically in the championship right now never necessarily plan to be on that level, and we never plan to have this type of league at that point. So they've been around for a while.
Yeah, I think, especially this next sort of gen of stadium projects you see coming down the pipe, whether it's East Bay or some of the other ones that we've sort of talked about, the Chicago one, which has since fallen through, but still looking at new potential venues for that kind of project. You're not talking about 5,000 seat venues anymore, right? Which was certainly where we have been in the past. All of a sudden now you're talking about 10, 12, 15,000 seat stadiums across the United States for USL Championship soccer. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, you mentioned it too. The West Coast and the two East Coast expansions, are those already announced in some form or fashion? You're not able to label what they are, but we've heard about East Bay. We've heard about other ones. Is that what he's talking about when he says one West Coast, two East Coast, or not so much?
I can't really provide a ton of. It's a fair question. It's a fair question. You got to ask it. I can't really provide a ton of additional insight into that. East Bay's already been announced. So he's talking about expansion markets that will be announced before the spring or before summer. So you should have 3 new ones by the time summer rolls around. And that's not including potential League One expansion markets as well. And you could see a couple of announcements come down the pipe in that world throughout the spring as well.
So would that leave just one expansion market to get to that 40, including these new 3 USLC sides?
No, because it's part of that larger growth strategy. We're talking about teams dropping down over time, right? So if you have 36 right now and you have 10 to 12 who over the course of the next 7 years move down into League One, that leaves you with somewhere in the vicinity of 15 expansion markets, which I think is it's a big number, but we've been in touch with more than, I think, 30 communities already who have reached out expressing interest in having USL Championship clubs in their city. So 15 seems like a lot of supply, but the demand is even higher. And I think that's what's, in 1994, my dad, I got into soccer because my dad got us these tickets to a 1994 World Cup match. It was USA versus Colombia at the Rose Bowl. I'm from Southern California. And the starting of MLS was a precondition to the United States hosting that 1994 World Cup. And what's crazy is, you look back at that time and you think, what if you had told a young me or just a casual fan who was at the game that day that by the next time the World Cup comes to the United States in 2026, not only are you going to have this league that hasn't started yet, it's going to be Major League Soccer, but then you're going to have 2 more professional tiers below it. You're going to have over 100 professional soccer clubs around the country. You're going to have soccer-specific stadiums everywhere, ranging from anywhere from 2,500 to 30, 40,000 at the MLS level. I mean, it's crazy. The growth of soccer in the U.S. and I know it's we hear it all the time, right? It's growing, growth. But it is actually if you take a second and sit back and kind of look at what's being achieved, I think it's incredible. It's really remarkable.
So when you guys point to wanting to have 40 teams in the championship in League One by 2026, I'm going to use a potentially dirty phrase here. Does that mean that in 2026 we're ready for Pro Rel?
I think it's possible. I think it's possible. I don't think anyone knows or can say with 100% clarity what yes or no. But I think if you talk to Jake and if you talk to Alec and if you talk to our executive team, I think it's definitely something that they're happy to consider, and I think will consider. The key to it, and I don't want to sound redundant. I know you've heard it numerous times, but the key is taking the necessary steps to even get to the point where you can have that conversation, and we're not there yet. There's still so much work to be done. We're talking about all that expansion. You're talking about 35 new communities. There has to be a degree of competitive parity between the 2 leagues. So if a team does get relegated and drop down, that it isn't a obscenely debilitating for that franchise. So an Interleague Cup maybe is one step to sort of start gauging the competitive parity between the two leagues. But honestly, there's I get that ProRel, and even with the Grant Wall story, that is sort of the sexy headline, and that it drives a ton of conversation. But I think the real story there is the growth in the 35 new communities and the strategy that it's going to take to get to the point where you can start actually having an intelligent conversation internally about ProRel.
Yeah, but I mean that it's all intertwined though too. You got to hand it to the USL for being so business minded, so savvy about everything they do, everything you guys do. I think it's one of the greatest qualities of the league. But there's also this other story that I'm helping craft, and I don't know if it's true. But that ProRel is a goal for a certain reason. It's romantic. It's perhaps the best system for our country. You know what I mean? Like, this has to be something you guys, like, deep down in your bones, no matter what you say, is something you want to happen in the long run. Is it something like that as a goal, eventual goal, even if you don't want to necessarily come out and say this is going to happen?
I'd probably have to let Jake speak to that. Someone who's been guiding sort of the strategy and vision for the organization, or Alec, over the last couple of years. It's hard for me to be totally candid with you. It's hard for me. I've been on a job for about 3.5 months now, so I don't know necessarily what the North Star guiding light is on every issue. But look, I know that Jake, when Jake talks about ProRel in these types of settings, he talks about having played in the system, and he talks about having been a part of pyramids that had it. And I think there, to some degree, maybe there is a school of thought that it is the best way of going about creating a professional soccer tiered system in the United States. But again, it's not so much, I know it eats up a lot of the bandwidth of the conversation in the general populace, but I'm being totally honest when I say that internally, it's not something we're talking about a lot. We're more talking about how do we continue to grow the championship? How do we get better stadiums? How do we get better players? How do we, raise the standards of the league? And then in turn, how do we do so again in Ligue 1? And then once we get to two hyper competitive divisions that both have 40 teams that are firing on all cylinders, and we're playing in great stadiums, and there's competitive parity, and there's a great Interleague Cup, and it's tribal, and we're filling out stadiums, then I think you sit down and you have a conversation about it. But I can't reiterate enough just the sheer volume of work that has to be done at the league office before we can even really have I think a quality conversation about it.
It's good stuff. Well, whether it leads to ProRel or not, and whether it's only a testing ground or not, the Interleague Cup is something I'm super excited about. And there was mention of like a League Cup between our own league and then also an Interleague. Can you tell us how that might be looking like in the next year or two?
Yeah, for sure. It's already been presented on some level to the USL Board of Governors, and I think that it's been received favorably. The general gist of it is an Interleague Cup between championship clubs and Ligue 1 teams, and I think it'll take some sort of knockout tournament sort of formatting. I think it would be interesting if championship level clubs could play cross conference. I don't know that that'll happen, but I know that's been part of the conversation. Still working out some of the details, host bid process, number of teams, but ultimately it's a way of gauging that sort of competitive parity. And I think, we'd like to, assuming that everything gets approved and it gets headed in the right direction, I think we'd like to have it in place by 2020. I think it'd be really cool too. You can imagine if you're a fan of one of the independent Ligue 1 teams, if you're a fan of Tormenta in South Georgia or Greenville, and all of a sudden you get a chance to come up against Phoenix Rising or Louisville. I mean, that's a cool opportunity for the community. So we're really excited about it, putting it into place.
Yeah. The only thing I thought of immediately is if you had more than one League Cup of any kind, or Interleague Cup and a League Cup and the USL, Championship Cup and Ligue 1 Cup separately. Is that too many games? How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I think it's a conversation we have to have. it's a fine balance, right? You want to have as much soccer as possible, but you don't. There is a threshold that you can't really go over out of fairness to the players. So again, conversations that happen internally. I don't have anything necessarily new to share, but that exact point is something that we're talking about regularly for sure.
To be mindful of your time, and also because I think some of these are questions that we have. We got a couple listener questions, so let me kind of bang through the important ones, and then there's some little less important ones that I'll end with, just to leave you on a good note. First one is, why is there such a big range in communication between USL teams? So some teams are very active and open, and others are silent and not as transparent. Would love to see consistency within USL on player movement, announcements, and contracts during season and after season as well. I know that's kind of club to club, and as now league representative, but as a guy that worked for an MLS team where those are also very varied. Do you have any insight on that one? And I mean, I think the other thing that's a little tricky is that a lot of clubs are one people shows still.
Yeah, that point's really important. It's a really sharp question. I'd be interested though, before I answer it. I mean, is that something that you guys have experienced too? I mean, do you think that's a fairly accurate assessment when looking around the league?
Yeah, without naming names, there's been a couple clubs that I haven't been able to get a hold of in any capacity.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a couple things to consider. One, there's going to be varying degrees of openness and transparency between clubs in any professional sports league. I think you could say the same of the NFL or the NBA or the Premier League. But there are some teams, I'll say this, there are some teams in USL, especially at the championship level, who are doing it incredibly well, who I think are open and are transparent, and they do everything they can to provide sort of a shine a light on what's going on behind the scenes at the club, so long as that it doesn't give away competitive advantage or doesn't disparage reputations, right? Which are I think the two things that you have to keep in mind if you're at the head of a communications department for a professional soccer club. Louisville comes to mind. I think Scott Stewart does an incredible job there. I think Trey in Indy does a fantastic job. I think Sam Dorr, who does a lot more than communications at Phoenix Rising, I think he does a fantastic job. Preston Petrie in San Antonio. I mean, these are guys who are working at the USL level because they love soccer. But really, from a talent standpoint, I think they could be heads of PR departments for any major American sports league, for any team, and I think they'd be doing it at a really, really high level. But I think you're right, and I think it's a fair question. Whoever submitted it on Twitter, that there is a gap, and it's one of the things that I noticed when I first came on board was that there probably wasn't enough dialogue between club communications department and the league communications department. So we've sort of restructured and done a couple of things to bring in 2 new positions to the communication staff at the league level that really just serve as club consultants in a way. They're going to operate as the liaisons between the office and the clubs themselves. And ultimately, what I hope will happen is that it'll end up elevating everyone's standards, because some of these teams, like you said, they have one person doing communications and marketing and digital, and that's a huge job. And so I think having someone at the league office that they can call now and say, hey, we got this cool kid unveil coming, can you help us with a promotional plan around it, or we got this great story, can you help us drive up some national news coverage? I think I think putting some additional support staff at the league office for these teams will ultimately help take everyone kind of to the next level and bridge that gap a little bit so that everyone's performing at the level of those people that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Real quick, I know there's a specific St. Louis example where guys in St. Louis get really driven crazy about like injured guys, and so they'll either disappear from training and someone will mention it, and then someone gets upset and the club doesn't announce anything. We're just up in the air. Did he get traded? Is he gone? What happened? And he says, Jeremy Allenbaugh, he's right. He says, if everyone announced their injuries on a certain day, I would too, but I can't do it unless someone else does. It's an unfair advantage. And he's right. And so that's something that like the league could actually say, you have to announce your injuries on a certain day and change that sort of thing. Is there anything like that you guys have talked about or about could be? And
it goes beyond just the injuries thing. I'll tell you, the injuries thing is really hard. And it's really hard for club communications heads because they have to balance they're sort of the advocate for the fans in the room in those settings.
Right.
Because you can imagine that there are executives sometimes and coaches and medical personnel who sort of operate under a less is more sort of mentality, right? And maybe they're not as motivated to be forthcoming with the information. So the club communications head in any of these teams has to go in and say, no, guys, this is the right thing to do. We need to keep people informed. And that's a hard conversation for people to have. And sometimes it helps if there are these league standards that they can point to and say, well, look, it's not just us who are telling you need to do this. As a league, this is what's required. So we're having constant conversation about this since I came on board, about not just that, but also, access protocols, making sure that media are being allowed in the locker room after games, that kind of thing, formalizing some protocols and processes that I think are probably more in play for 2020 than 2019, but we'll definitely get there for sure. It's a good question.
Kind of to piggyback off of that one, someone else asked, does the league itself offer any trainings or support for club communications people?
I don't think it was something that we probably did a good enough job on in the past, to be
fair,
completely candid with you. But that's been the goal in trying to bring on these 2 new staff members. So we're going to bring on people who can essentially be consultants to these guys and gals and help them not just with communications and PR and media relations, but also some of the digital elements and making sure that they have what they need from graphic support and social media support and all that stuff. So I think there's so many talented people that are doing this job across the league. It's just, sometimes they have a lot on their plate, and we're going to do whatever we can to try to help get a little bit off of it and support them in any way we can. It's a big project for us, but
no,
it's
for
really
sure.
cool.
Yeah. The last one, and this is a little bit hard hitting. I will also preface it and say that I would not have phrased it like this, but nevertheless, I didn't write it. Why does USL seem to forget their history from 93 to 2010? I'm a stats guy, and I would love to see the stats from before 2011. I will add on, I would love to see the stats from 2011 on.
It's fair. It's fair. So one of the things that we're actually in the process of working on right now is a USL history book. And we've Nicholas Murray, who's been in the USL communications department for a long, long time, who is sort of like the walking USL history book.
Yes.
He's
the gatekeeper.
Yeah. He knows more about the league than anyone in the office. But we've carved out some time for him and brought on an intern from the University of Tampa here who works in sports management, and they've been tasked over the next 3 months to sort of develop this statistical history of the league. There's some interesting nuances, right? We have to figure out the wording. Are we going to, the modern era or the pre-modern era? What are we going to call these things, and how are we going to classify it? There's so many teams and all of these things, right? And we're kind of having those conversations as we go. But I think by the end of this next season, we'll have a detailed catalog of USL statistical history that you can look back on.
Lovely.
That's exciting, especially these stats here. I'm just so thrilled to hear that news.
Mr. Madden, you're currently making 2 of my co-hosts do all of the legwork for this. And as much as I appreciate them doing that, they shouldn't have to, my friend. Anyway, less serious questions. I really like this one, actually. Working in the league's main office, are you and your coworkers discouraged from supporting specific USL teams? And I can imagine the answer for that is yes. If not, which clubs have the most support down in the Tampa office?
Man, that's that's a tough one. I have never.
Is there anyone that you guys are just like, come on?
I've never heard anyone say that we cannot be fans of the teams. I think everyone in the office is probably, if they're being honest with themselves, has certain teams that they're fans of, places that they're from. I'm originally from Southern California, so Orange County has a special place for me. Just because I know the stadium. I grew up. I went to high school a couple blocks away. And I think every person in the league office will have similar stories like that. But the thing is too, and I know this is going to sound like cliche or what you would expect to hear from the PR guy, right? But
go for it, man.
When you come to the office every single day and you're working for USL every day, and you're talking about growing, and you're interacting with all of these teams, and you know these people personally, whether it's RGV to Dallas to Statesboro, Georgia. You honestly, you just end up rooting for everyone, and so when you watch games, you find yourself being pretty neutral because you don't have a dog in the fight, and you kind of want to see everyone do well, and everyone elevates each other. And I know it's cliche and what you would expect to hear, but it's true, and it's just sort of the natural dynamic of working in a league office, I think.
Well, Ryan, you fell into my trap.
Yeah, all right.
You said 10 to 15 minutes, and I got 20 out of you.
Perfect.
So I will thank you very much for your time, sir. I appreciate everything you do both on and off air. For sure, we look forward to working with you in the future, and have a hopefully as stress-free as possible rest of your preseason, my friend.
Yeah, of course. Hey, Evan, you forgot one question though, and so I'm gonna ask you it. Is that all right?
Yeah, go for it, brother.
So you get three athletes.
Yeah, man.
From any sport other than soccer.
Ooh. Yeah.
Who you can bring into your starting 11, and throughout the course of American sports history. Who are the three?
Oh my God!
And what positions are they playing on the field?
Oh my.
All right. Whew. Okay. Well, I think for the love of God, someone needs to sign Chad Ochocinco so he just stops talking about it.
No, don't do it. I have the perfect answer for one.
So
he's one. Gotta have it.
I want Bo Jackson up top.
Very good.
Running his ass off and bumping people around.
And for my third, and this is a throwback. This is before we had this podcast. Former Charlotte Independence player Randy Moss, please.
Is a 9?
As a 9, yeah.
Like game stuff, winning every ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I'm cheating because he already played for the Independents, but or he was in training or whatever that was. But
Did you guys ever watch do you remember the And One mixtape tour from back?
Yes. Oh, you mean my childhood?
About the Professor. Remember him?
Oh my God.
That's so funny.
He was no. All I'm saying is you put the Professor at the 10, and it's all step overs.
Okay. Wait. I don't need any of the players from the M1 mixtape tour. Can I have the guy that was on the court yelling at people the whole time?
Yeah, you can have that dude.
Can you guys go out and get him and just for the USL game of the week, can he just do like him and Mike in the booth? It'll be great.
Be perfect.
Ryan, you just made Evan's day.
Ryan, you're now my best friend. So I'm sorry.
All right, guys.
No,
appreciate you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. Good stuff, man.
Have a good one. See you guys. Cheers.
Yep. So good. He nailed it. We're getting good comments all around, and
oh man,
nailed
what a guy, everybody. Ryan Madden, what a guy. That's who we deal with on a semi-frequent basis. So
he's good to us. We're really lucky, and he's good at his job.
We're incredibly lucky. Everyone at the league. We're just gonna suck up to him now, right? For 5 minutes.
Why wouldn't we?
If that wasn't
no reason not to.
Guys, did you know there's a lot of growth now? No. That's just listen. That's if anyone's surprised by how proud or impressed that those guys are at that about being humble about it and not shooting too high, I don't think. And on the other foot, you would be really impressed and proud of that too, if you saw where USL was in 2011 or even 3 years ago. So
yeah, I mean, look at 2011. I wouldn't have believed you if you had said Didier Drogba would be playing in the USL final.
No way.
Right.
Freaking way.
Or like, hey, Harrisburg just played on Thursday and also Friday. like that's where we were at a point where it was like this team is playing an away game in Charlotte on Thursday or Charleston or something on Thursday and a home game on Friday at home.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
Yeah, and they keep making the right moves to fix that, right? Yeah. Because they just made the season longer but less games each week. It's a smart move, and it's like not all leagues make the right moves like that.
So
no, there's one that we're not going to talk about. That we're
sure.
doing a good job of that.
Thank you. El Tree is pretty good. Pretty good.
El Tree, baby. Guys, do we want to talk about the draft briefly?
Yeah, let's do it. I like talking about the
Cool.
Super Draft. It's one of my favorite things.
I enjoy it.
Shade.
I went to the one in 2018 that was in Philadelphia. That was a good time.
Man, I could have gone to this one in Chicago right up the road, and I missed out. I didn't.
If for nothing else, to see all the coaches get their photo taken together. That's a fun one.
I just want to talk to Kalen Carr. It's like the only reason I want to go.
Sure.
I want a man crush on him just a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. I dig it.
Is he not the coolest kid in soccer broadcasting?
Yeah. I mean, well, a little biased, but Mo Adu is pretty.
Okay.
He's pretty chill.
I was impressed. I like the way he did this thing recently.
He's a good dude. He's a good dude. Anyway, do we just want to talk about how many picks didn't get taken?
Yes.
Okay, great. So 21 of the 48 picks in rounds 3 and 4 were passed, including everyone from 79 to 83. 4 of the top 5 picks of the 2018 draft, Moutinho, Thomas Hilliard Arce, Tristan Blackman, Francis Atuahene, right? And Jean Beccaro. Everyone besides Moutinho was at a USL club last season. And Blackman, in fact, went to Phoenix from LAFC. So it's kind of turning into the USL SuperDraft, which I don't think is a problem. But where the problem lies is that no one wants to pick in rounds 3 and 4, which I get. Like, I think, you know, if you could have teams punt on like the 6th and 7th round in the NFL draft, I think they would. Maybe. Or if you could have teams in the, 6th round of the NHL draft, they might punt. Like I don't know if it's just because they're given the option or what. But the problem is, like, there's teams, with MLS 2 sides that, like, the Union traded all theirs away to Cincinnati for $150,000. And, there was teams that have historically found some nice pieces in the draft that just didn't pick this year.
No, at least with that, it just, like, I wonder, like, how does it feel with players that it's like they have the option of, like, teams have the option of either choosing a player or just not choosing anyone at all, and they choose to side with not anyone at all, when, like, nearly half the picks in the final 2 rounds are passed on, that teams just choose not to do anything with it. It seems counterintuitive to holding these rounds, and I get this, to paraphrase a Rick and Morty quote here, this just sounds like signing USL players with extra steps.
Yeah,
that's kind of true.
The only thing that I'm thinking about is just waiting, because all these guys are now essentially free agents. Do you get to sign them for cheaper in like a month? Do you get to bring them in on trial, try them out in your system, and then sign them after that? Like, is there some like 4D chess that teams are playing right now that I'm just becoming aware of?
I guarantee you that's the case. Now that you're bringing it up, I guarantee you that's the case, because I think there's probably less red tape. If I'm not mistaken, a certain price tag is attached to your round drafting.
And I know if you're Generation Adidas, it's a set number as well.
Yeah, so it may not be true for all of them, but if they're just passing, because here's the deal. I think Cincinnati or someone picked someone where he was
very good. Good start. Good start.
They're going back to college. It doesn't matter who, honestly. They're going back to college, and they're going to go to school for a year, and then they're going to re-sign with MLS after that. And that team now owns his rights no matter what happens with him, right? So if he signs in MLS, he has to sign with that club, or they have to pass on him, and then someone else
they have
to buy him out.
Right of first refusal, as it's called, which is my favorite. Yeah.
Much better way to put that. So if to me, why not pick a guy that you think could develop into something better in the future? Say he goes to OCSC and does really well, and then you want him in your MLS squad. You get the rights to him. So why not go ahead and pick him? Well, maybe because there's a certain price tag to him. Maybe there's something you have to do in between. There's got to be some kind of red tape that teams are avoiding here.
Yeah. Or because you think you have a 17-year-old in your academy that has the same skill set that he does that you can sign on a home run.
Well, and that's what a lot of people have said too, is that before someone's in the draft, they're allowed to be signed to a homegrown contract outside of the draft. And then they're out of the draft and they just go straight to that team.
Right.
Top 5, 10 players are more like top 20, 30, 40 players, because all the good players, the best players, have been signed to homegrown contracts for the most part.
Yes.
I mean, in my personal opinion, I think this is like, it was great to have for like the past 2 decades of MLS, but we're starting to reach a period that the only draft that we should be having is an expansion draft that I think would encourage academies a lot more, or instead of just having the super draft.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that, you know, I'll go on record and say something like the USL should take over in the 2nd or 3rd round, right? Because it just makes sense. Even the first round would be fine, not necessarily perfect. It'd be fine. But I just think, wouldn't it be better if we just did away with the draft? Because that's the way the rest of the world works. I guarantee you the problem with all this is MLS might say, USL, would you like to join this draft? Edwards might just be like, no, like, we'll sign free agents. That's the way the rest of the world works. Why would we do this? There's no point, because that's the way the USL works. And it's not at all the way MLS works. And so that's what I love about my league, man. You know, it's more pure. We do it right. And I understand why MLS did what they did. I'll say that all day, every day.
Yeah.
And why we're here right now. It makes sense, but it's not the best form right this second.
I'll guarantee by 2026, if that's going to be our kind of target, that the draft will not exist by then, or should not exist by the time we get to the World Cup.
Yeah. And then we get into, you know, topics about what happens to college and should the college game change. And I'm trying to get Travis Clark to talk to me about that next Wednesday. That might happen. Right now we're talking about it. So look for that. No one knows better than him, right?
No. Not at all. Guys, I guess we'll leave with this. Is there one thing right now on January the 17th of 2019, be it a player or otherwise, that you're looking forward to seeing in USL this year? Can be League One. Doesn't have to be championship level.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm so excited about North Texas SC as a men's national team, USL kid, play the kids lover. You know, North Texas has got their top 3 could be Jesus Ferreira. Paxton Palmerthal, Ricardo Pepe. Thank you. Got them all. I'm so bad with names. I'm so impressed with myself right now. That could be their top attacking 3 if they were to play a 4-3-3. That is so good if you follow the men's national team, the U20s and the U17s. Excited about what that means for those kids to play grown men every day and develop above the USS.
Hey, I'm going to piggyback off your North Texas SC hype. Also, hey, North Texas SC, you're getting a good bit of promotion tonight. So, you know, let us know when you guys are free. Just, you know, give us a shout.
I talked to the GM.
I'm slide into those DMs, baby. I'm gonna also mention an attacking player, in fact, at North Texas SC, and it's a guy that I've been aware of for about 2 years, ever since he was linked with an MLS move to the Philadelphia Union. Never came to be. He has 2 senior caps for Haiti. One of them occurring when he would have been like 16, but it's Ronaldo Damus, who is supposed to be unreal, and North Texas has him, and I am terribly excited to see if all the hype is gonna be worth it.
Check that out. That's new to me, so I'll be watching for that.
Yeah, he there was a lot of talk about him like a year and a half ago ish. Was back and forth with the Dallas Juniors, like was there from April to July of 2018, and now he's with North Texas. So we'll see.
What about you, Ryan? You got one?
I'm going to go with if we're going to stick with the League One sides, I have 2. I'm going to be really interested in Greenville Triumph. I think with Harks as their manager, it's going to be really good. But then you have Jake Keegan, Evan Lee, and Tyler Polak of St. Louis and Cincinnati. I feel like they're going to be a really solid side down there. And even then, Harks' son, Ian Harks, just signed with Dundee United over in the Scottish Championship. And I guess if I had to name a second one, it would just be Forward Madison, just for like the entertainment of like how well they do their social media. I'm sure you guys saw the post earlier today of their secret formation, and it had like 11 forwards and then their goalkeeper, Brian Sylvester.
Yep. Former Carolina Railhawk, former Philadelphia Union, former LA Galaxy.
And they also perform a hammerhead on that team of Jeff Michaud, who was loaned to us from Tampa Bay in the 2016 season, I believe.
Cool. Good answer.
All right, word. I think we're out.
Evan got caught up in the chat right there for a second.
I did. That's I zoned out for a hot second. I'm sorry. I was typing.
The chat's awesome.
The downfall. Real quick, because I didn't super thank you to our sponsors, the Beautiful Game Network podcast, which you can find all of those podcasts, bgn.fm, including Brandon Miller's podcast exists there. Hugh Roberts' podcast exists there. There's Speedway Soccer Pod, which is for Nashville. There's the Unused Substitutes, which is for Tampa Bay. There's a ton more. I'm not even going to try it. So there you go. Our friends at Roughneck Scarves, check those guys out. You're home for everything related to U.S. men's national team, MLS, USL scarves, as well as scarves for your personal or custom use. Check those guys out, roughneckscarves.com. And a big up, special thanks or hi to my good friend DK and the guys over at Soccer Loco. If you go to our website, uslshow.com, there's a orange and blue box. It is gray and gray if you're colorblind. Click on that, buy whatever you want. We get a cut of that. Check it out. Thanks so much. Also, our Patreon, patreon.com/the USL show. We legitimately use all of that money for audio equipment and stuff. So we're going to hook Ryan up in a bit. So that'll be cool. I'm going to give it a bit. I'm moving shortly. So hopefully I'll be close to a router, which is a big thing. So we'll see. We'll see. I shouldn't have to make another investment. Thanks so much for listening. Twitter.com/the USL show. Find me at Speak Evan Speak. Phil's at Phil with 2 L's, Grooms with 2 O's, and Ryan is at my favorite airport at ILM_Ryan. So yeah, be sure to check to us there. Make sure you follow us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, all that fun stuff. Until next time, thanks for listening. Thank you again to Ryan Madden for being on from the league and his continued support and generosity. And don't be a dick. Great. Thanks so much.